We find in the book of Isaiah, of course, written by the prophet Isaiah, these words. These people, speaking of the Israelites, these people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips. This is the God speaking. But their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules they have been taught. You might say merely human patterns, doing it by rote. We want to look at this a little bit today and talk about what it has to do with the Christian's lifestyle. But before I do, I want to welcome you to this ministry moment. I hope that it will be a blessing to you. It certainly is a blessing to involve you in it in this way. Thank you for joining me. If you can't come make this, and I'm not sure how you can't, since it's live streamed and you can listen to it anytime. But if you can't, come and join us on Sunday morning at 10:35, where we have our worship service. You'll be able to see the whole thing and hear the whole thing, and hopefully that too will be a blessing. But I want to talk to you about this verse that's in the book of Isaiah. And in order to do that, I want to tell you a story that anyone who has had little children can identify with. It's about a young woman named Vivian. And she, like many, many ladies who stay at home, try to keep the house clean. Well, they all try to keep the house clean, but how do you do it if you're working and coming home and, being pulled in 16 different directions? And of course, this applies to them too. But she was stay at home all day long, and of course, she tried to keep the house clean. But with 4 kids, it was almost an exercise in futility. She would clean up muddy kid tracks. She would clean the bathroom many different times, and so on and so on. And you know what the so-ons are. But anyway, she said that with 4 kids, it's a hopeless cause, or it seemed like a hopeless cause. Her 3 boys, she said, would track in mud, eat, and leave crumbs all over the living room, despite numerous admonitions not to do that, to eat over the table. They would leave clothes strewn around, and they would abandon half-eaten food on the counters, on the sink, and I don't know how many black ants they must have had, because that's what happened in our family. But then something happened. Young child Brandon accidentally fell into a nearby lake, and his brothers panicked. They liked to play around the lake, but nothing like this had ever happened. So they ran home and got Mom, and she came, and she sprung into action and put out a large branch and pulled him out of the water. And then she sat him down on the couch, took him home, set him on the couch, mud and all. And it's real funny. He recovered completely. But she wasn't so much worried about mud all over the place. I would have been real upset if she had have been. but she was concerned about how Brandon did. Was he okay? Did he need to go to the doctor? Well, he was okay. He was breathing okay, and soon he was walking around and ready to go out and play again. Well, you know, I think that's a little bit of what Isaiah was talking about. Sometimes the most important thing in the world is our attitudes, our rituals, our habits, our patterns. But God looks to the heart. He looks to who a person is. And he doesn't see us in the imperfect eyes that we use. He sees a person by their heart and judges them in their heart. So you see, wherever we are, you might run into somebody who's not quite as smart as you or not quite as skillful as you, whatnot. But remember, those things don't really matter to God. What matters is who one is at the heart, in the heart. I remember one time I was worshiping in this huge church, and by a quirk of the way we were seated, we would go up to the altar and kneel, and it was a wide rail. 30, 40 people could get up and kneel at that rail. Well, it turned out as we both wound our way around and ended up at the communion rail, the person to my left was a bishop. In fact, he was the bishop of the Methodist Church. And here I was, just a little punk student in seminary. And you could not have imagined two people who were more different. A person who had all the power he ever might want, and the person who had none. But did God love one more than the other? No. God loved us both equally. And he led us to different paths of ministry. But those paths of ministry were equally important to God and to the people that surrounded us. Anyway, I hope you have a blessed day. I'll see you Sunday, or I will see you next Thursday, where we share together another ministry moment. Blessings to you.